Now I'd like to ask Veronica's mum, as caregiver, to tell you her story from the caregiver's point of view. Catherine.
Good afternoon. Veronica's pain has affected every aspect of our family's life. It has impacted me professionally. It cost me my job. As a chemical engineer, I found it impossible to do my job when I was never at my workplace. At first, when Veronica broke her ankle, my coworkers and my employers were very, very understanding. They accepted that I was late every day because I needed to drive Veronica to work. They understood that I often had to leave early because Veronica would call me from class with unbearable pain. And they were very sympathetic to the fact that I had to leave 3 or 4 times a week to go to the many appointments that Veronica required. But my employers and my coworkers expected that it was a short-term thing. When it went on, month after month after month, their patience wore thin. I had to resign. As a consequence, our family has lost $500,000 in my gross salary, and that's only part of the financial impact. Many of those appointments cost money. On average, for the last 7 years, we've spent over $3,000 a year on physiotherapy and acupuncture. That's a lot of money when you're trying to raise 3 teenagers on one dad's salary. It's enough for a whole year away at university, and that keeps me awake at night. Between my salary loss and expenses, we don't have the $200,000 that it will cost to send our 3 kids to university. But I don't want to leave you with the impression that the financial impact was the only or even the biggest impact on our family life. Our whole family dynamic changed when Veronica broke her ankle. All 5 of us enjoy outdoor activities together, but now Veronica is unable to participate in them. So we stopped doing things as a family. An evening bike ride? Forget it. A hike in the woods? Impossible. A weekend skiing? Not a chance. These things all cause Veronica intense pain. Family time for us is sitting time. We watch TV or play games together, but it's been over 7 years since we enjoyed physical activities as a group. There's also a social cost, which has been high for both Veronica and me. I no longer see my coworkers every day, so those friendships have fallen off. Veronica rarely sees her gymnastics friends or coaches, and those relationships were a really, really big part of her life. And we both used to be very active in our local environmental group, but Veronica is unable to hike, to go into the woods, to plant wildflowers and trees, and so those relationships are not what they used to be. In fact, our whole world, as Will said, has shrunk. They're much, much smaller than they used to be. But the greatest cost to us has been emotional. If Veronica and I had a dime for every time we cried in the last 7 years, Veronica could pay her own cell phone bill. And if you have any teenage daughters, you know that's a lot of dimes. There's the constant stress of making decisions when the outcomes is not at all predictable. Like when she was going to Wonderland. How do you weigh the social benefit of attending with your friends versus the physical cost of pain? Will she be able to go to school on Monday? Will she be able to walk? How is it going to impact her marks? And then there's the coping with the less than understanding people. There's Veronica's peers. She's blessed with excellent friends, but teenagers have a hard time accepting that she has to say no so often. She can't go dancing, she can't go skating, she can't go walking to Tim Hortons. And then there's the adults in her life that have not always been sympathetic. For instance, the vice principal Veronica mentioned, who really felt it was fair to evaluate her on a day when she was in so much pain she could barely spell her own name. And the worst thing for me, coping emotionally, is the doctor's appointments. Going to doctor full of hope, for them to tell us that there's nothing wrong with her, and then again, with hope, trying medicine after medicine, many of which made her very sick. The emotional toll has been devastating on our whole family. I also have some advice for the province. The first thing I would say is please educate doctors to recognize neuropathic pain. How great would it have been for us if our family doctor had recognized Veronica's condition, we could have saved years and years of bouncing from doctor to doctor, and the province could have saved tons of money. Number 2 would be to improve community understanding of chronic pain by providing education materials. This could have hugely helped Veronica, particularly with teachers and principals. And the third is to provide evidence-based consumer information to assist in treatment decisions. We trusted our doctors when they suggested drugs for Veronica. We did not realize that many of the drugs had not been tested on children or adolescents, and that many of them hadn't been tested on patients with her type of pain. And these medicines were not innocuous. I would send Veronica to school not only with terrible pain in her leg, but she'd also have excruciating headaches from the medications. She'd sometimes be dizzy, irritable, confused. She would tremble. It's possible to learn, absolutely impossible to learn under those circumstances. And the fourth and last thing I'd say would be to develop a forum for sharing best practices. Dr. Sherry's program in Philadelphia has a 92% success rate. I think that's something that should be offered here. If these things had been in place for us, Veronica could have avoided much of her difficult journey. And in conclusion, I'd just like to say that in spite of the fact that I've just spent 10 minutes complaining about Veronica's condition, that I wouldn't trade her for the world. She's an extraordinary daughter. Thank you.